You see, I have danced with the blood-flecked women, and they did not tear me. Perhaps they were tired from frenzy. One kissed me, and iron of him was upon her, dribbled down her chin. I was late, too, for Lupercalia. The wolf boy leapt, my heart in his mouth, and we danced amongst the skins scattered on the ground. Did he scamper or I? How like bowling through the town. No poet, no lover. All of us late to creation stories. Still it keeps me company. The blood on a maenad's throat, on a wolf's tongue, salting everything I eat. Good afternoon. It's Saturday, 4 o'clock, 9th of Jan. I leapt right into the poem there to the start, and I'll repeat that one later on at the end. Hi Saz, lovely to see you, thank you. I'm continuing to read from this book, Sabrina Bridge, by me, yeah. Reading my way through the whole thing bit by bit, and we shall see how far we get through it today. These ones seem to be a touch more introspective, perhaps a bit more tender, slightly more mythological. The one I just read is called Late to Lupercalia, and it's one of those ones that you're not always sure what you were wanting to say as you wrote it. I mean, it speaks of the Maenads, those women, the followers of Dionysus, who famously tore up the poet Orpheus, who saw them in their celebrations. And it also speaks of Lupercalia, the wild festival for the wolves. Perhaps for both, it's about just missing out on that wildness, that sense of new, terrible destruction and creation, being outside of these pivotal moments. But then how for all of us, being late to such things might well temper the rest of our lives, but if nothing else, allows the rest of our lives. So I'm going to read a few more. Please say hello if you're around, because I don't necessarily know how many people are watching or even who you are. But it'll be lovely to know that. As I've done on the last couple of shows as well, I'm going to include a couple of poems by a friend of mine from their own book, in lieu of being able to have special guests or involve other people in these readings. I'll introduce them later on. So this first one I want to read is called Sorge, which is an Old English word which survives as sorry. But was in use then was to mean sorrow. Sorge. It is never behind you. It is always within you, like the rings in a tree, or a knot in the wood, disguised by the bark, but still showing through. A branch that never grew. And this might be a similar theme. Something that never came to full being. A poem called Love Stubborn. It's not the wound, still raw, that draws the rage, but more the thought of nature's healing scab, rough and ugly cover, an angel's cage to keep the sore inside, a livid crab pinching, clinging on, the hurt to assuage, flaking then from skin, made whole and drab. The fire aches to burn, the flame to soar, the purple bruise to bloom upon the snow, the blood to splay across the stricken floor, the neck's blue vein to open to the blow, and ever all and each desire more than see this love and ardour turn and go. Love clings on to survive, perhaps, stubbornly. Stubborn feelings. What's that all about, eh? When do they call it a day and say, okay, that's enough. I'm not going to be here anymore, I'm not going to hurt you anymore, I'm not going to remain here for you to drift upon and dwell upon. Instead they hang around like this one. Unstained. Though I have lived a life of shame and death within the brambled wood, still I hold this flower for you, unstained with blood. Silver white, it glistens still around a heart of coppered gold, which never darkness hand could steal nor shadow hold. I have it for you here, among the grit and thorn. And while the bed of rivers slowly chokes with slaughter, damned by the dead, to tally all the wounds, the shreds of every cull, I slice still more into the root, and feed the tender curl the tears I draw. Beneath this frowning canopy, when all the dollar of the world has spat, I bit them back and kept your secret furled. I keep it still, the only bloom that I could ever grasp. And this, a kindness never shown unto another's kiss. Unstained. Things we keep to ourselves. Things we never give out into the world. Unless perhaps in some piece of art or word or poetry or form that might both hold it and also set it apart from who we are. These are my secrets. I take no step through these caverns. I do not breathe, and my heart is muffled too. I float in a way that is not there, from stillness to stillness, and I carry no light. I see because it is mine to see, each thing as a variant of darkness, each thing as a variance of density, some more still than others still, but each the centre of all that may be. There is no sound, but this mute song, the noise of being there. I hold my gravity like breath, so as not to pull the silence from the air, if air there is. Whatever fills the void that is no void, it might be bliss, but I will not let it move my lung. These are my secrets. These are things that I cannot bring into the day and struggle with at night and at the door to death. They may even be keeping me alive. Could I walk with you here in Blindfold? Cover your ear, stop your nose, carry you, dribble air into your mouth from mine, and never say a sound. Even then I fear you'll feel the tender inner difference of the heat or cold, should I bring you too near. These are my secrets. I have no way to make them clear to me, much less to you. But I could not bear to love you so and not let you know they are there. There must be something about knowing somebody else that acknowledges everything you don't know about them, that acknowledges everything they have not yet become. I don't know quite how to do that, but I'd like to. Things my lover says. My lover says I'm a dark forest, and sometimes she must keep within the garth, for the howls of wolves and bears growling and the shadows fall across the path. But other seasons bring a better comfort, with the birds tune sweetly in the air over mossy beds. A fresh and verdant canopy beams from with blossom for her hair, and I would be the forest to surround her and hold her in the branches of my care. My lover says I am a brooding mere, and sometimes she must stay upon the shore when the cold face, iron still and mirrored, carries silent clouds scudding, nothing more. But other weathers bring a kind reflection of glistened diamonds sparking to a flame, gentle splashes captured with a dash of white, showing clear to the heart and tame. And I would be the water to refresh her, to bathe her and give her back her name. My lover says I'm a distant mountain, and sometimes she must linger in the dale, for the roll of the wind and the savage troll, the cliffs too dire for the fleet goat to scale. But other days allow a new perspective, as the rain washes silver down the fall, and a softer shoulder of earth will lift the view on a world, leave one ruler of it all. And I would be the foothold that might raise her, and the herd to answer to her call. My lover, she's a whispering ocean, and sometimes I must rest upon the strand, learning from the secrets she will tell me, the letters she has washed upon the sand. Though other moons may stir her into tempest, may draw her ebbing from the beach, with the pearl and the coral and the whale's cry behind a sharp wave, caught and out of reach. Still I will stand alone upon the harbour as I must, to hear the song she will teach. Things my lover said. Now, let me find. Where have I put it? This is something you don't want to do, is to mislay the book you wanted to read from. Then I shall improvise by choosing somebody else's book to read from. I was going to read from this book another time, but this is the one I'm going to choose to read from today. Another friend I know from my time in Worcester is this lady here. Her name is Jenny Hope. Her book is Petrol Head. And I hope she doesn't mind if I read one or two from them now. This is one of hers that I like very much, called I Watch My Mother Climbing Up Walls. Inside her house, she's as deft as a mime. Her hands palm the vinyl silk, but she's stopped by the ceiling. She's not yet mastered the fly-side grip. Instead, she sips her tea and considers the complexities of architecture. She catches the next clear day and escapes outside. She nooses the neck of the house and knots its innards around her gut. Her toes slip into grooves of mortar. She pauses, restarts, considers each man-made trough, and negotiates her way. Her fingers take each slightest chance and hold their moment before committing to the next move up. It's as delicate as climbing ice. Under the eaves, she converses with bats. 45 degrees later, she pulls herself upright and straddles the apex, singing. I watch my mother climbing up walls. by Jenny Hope, from her book Petrol Head. And in a bit I'll read another of those. This is a poem of mine from Sabrina Bridge called The Gift. She sent a penny to her love, but wrapped in gold and silver lace, enclosed within an ermine glove and locked inside a walnut case. Entrusted to a herald bright, new mounted on a gleaming mare, all guarded by a prince's might upon the kingly highway fair. And through a rich and rolling land she sent her promise to his hand. He left the highway where it led, the warlike royal guard dispersed. The snorting steed unbridled released the herald unrehearsed. Embarked the vessel walnut wood and let the wild ermine roam. Gave out the gold for pauper food and silver laced the beggar's tomb. He kissed the copper tarnished face and called her to a last embrace. There's something slightly fairy tale-ish about some of these. I've read a lot of William Morris's literature, his fiction and his poetry, and sometimes feel threads of his work weaving its way into mine. Most of these were written in Worcester, and the book is published by a Worcester publisher. Worcester, of course, is famous for its floods. It's flooded there when I was living there, and I believe it's flooded recently. There's marks around the cathedral to show how up above our heads it reached. And it thinks of that a little bit when I read this one, The Flood. I gripped upon the ragged bank, the brimming water in my eye, that carried almost sacrosanct the flooded river by. And how the captain's mounted troop came rearing to retrieve the shore, unhorsed they each by stallion's stoop, and never rode more. And all the bishops, pated kin, upon the cross's height engripped, baptismal waters washed again and from them stripped. I never saw the moneyer's wife, for sure she could not swim nor float, though he was paying for his life the gold within his boat. The king stayed on his castle's top, holding to the realm that his remained, crying to the tide, "Hear me, stop!" The waters he disdained. But she, I saw, from her tower leaping, with a free and falling cry, her dresses spread, an open flower to greet a lover's eye. Welcome in the river's hard embrace, I saw her swirling in his arms, carried like a swan from drowning safe and all other harms. At last the river's grip was more than mine, and into waves I sank, carried by his daughter from the shore, most sacrosanct. And let me offer you now another book, another poem from Jenny's book, Petrol Head. This is the title poem from the book, Petrol Head. And I was inspired by seeing a fire eater in the city. Petrol Head. At first, you fear your flesh might scorch, then burn. You stand upwind to watch him step inside his rope enclosure. He strips half naked. He is magnificence personified. And before you know it, you're calculating lung capacity, his projected output and trajectory. You do the maths. When he's not looking, you steal his cloth. Soak up sweat between your breasts. Mop your brow. He spots your potential, your dog-eyed adoration. A little less water, he's more volatile. More water, and he's tame, doused out. You might control him if you tried, but he's incandescent. You could scrape your finger across his skin, skims off the excess, then suck your finger dry. Have you never tasted petrol? Felt that sharp cut on the tongue as it seeps beneath your skin? No? Instead you watch him stamp and arch his back, transfixed, aroused. You buy him take-out cake and coffee and watch him gorge between displays. He says the job has numbed his sense of taste. He no longer eats for pleasure. Everything's just fuel. But still you wish it was your tongue slipping down his throat as you wonder what he tastes like. Wonderful poem by Jenny Hope, title poem of a book, Petrol Head. So, to return to Sabrina Bridge, I think one more and then a repeat of the first poem that I read at the beginning, which was really too early for anybody to rejoin in, so everybody missed it. So of the two to come, there's this one. Caught in a storm. Once more I turn to the storm for guidance. Where else would I find such all things are true? Where else is such forbearance? One for celebration, one for rue, one for dancing no-legged in the rain, one for tearing thunder from a heavy blue. Contradicting winds vie across the main, lightning thinks itself and blinks away, waters well and mither from the drain. Red and black pour bruises on the grey, churning nervous clouds clap to the drum. The night is giving birth, and the green day surrenders gladly to the horsemen come to tear the field, 1,000 lances landing with a cannonade's thrum. The huddled foxes, sharing warning glances at the roots around them, roaring to the sky, take us now! The dolmen's trances jolted all anew, sensing emptiness, decry the theft of grave and dancing bone. The empty and dead tomb would fly the heady stone into a bedded sea, and so never be alone. Beneath the hills, the giant whimpers, leave us be. The dragon child starts to teethe. The gods all gather, come in silence to the tree. Quiet threads its way across the weave, the needle's eye of calm. will have its time amongst the seas, bringing to the boil a breathing balm balanced on the high point and the low, and still the battened cry, alarm, alarm. I suspended on the edge of, shall I stay, should I go? Throw myself upon her roiling majesty, swept across the cauldron sky to know the size and quiet thunder we may be. The heavy rain and weightless flash of thought, the callous love and tender fury, the vagaries of all our many weathers brought to bear in one still moment of life, and in one calm moment of decision, caught. Caught in a storm. Barney, hiya! How are you doing? Didn't see you there. Thank you for sending a message. I'm going to jump back now to the very first poem I read, which I started off with, didn't even give you time to join us. So everybody was late to this one. And I promised I'd give it back to you. And as I said a little bit earlier, I may not know exactly what it's about, but it does touch on the Nenad, the women of Dionysus who tore Orpheus apart in their rage. And it touches also on the Lupercalia, the celebration of wildness to drive away even spirits, invoking the wolf. Late to Lupercalia. You see, I have danced with the blood-flecked women, and they did not tear me. Perhaps they were tired from frenzy. One kissed me, an iron of him was upon her, dribbled down her chin. I was late too for Lupercalia, though a wolf boy leapt my heart in his mouth, and we danced amongst the skins scattered on the ground. Did he scamper or I howl like bowling through the town? No, poet. No, lover. All of us late to creation stories. Still, it keeps me company. The blood on a Maenad's throat and a wolf's tongue. Salting everything I eat. And those are my poems for today. This week I've been doing them every other day, so if I keep up that pattern, it means the next reading will be Monday, if you're around about this time, 4 o'clock-ish. And I'll continue reading from Sabrina Bridge till that's done, and then figure out what to read after that. There's a fair bit. And if you're around to join me, then please do. The video itself can be seen on the timeline afterwards if you came in midway and want to look back, or if you want to hear anything again, see if it makes sense this time. And I shall read from a friend's book again on Monday. The one I intended to read from initially, because I was cross with myself for misleading it, stupid mistake. But I was also intending to read Always from Petrol Head by Jenny, and I hope she doesn't mind me reading it. I hope she enjoys. Right, keep well. See you soon. Yes, we'll get through all this. Much love.